Mike Giardi on WEEI Afternoons last week. He works at the Boston Sports Journal. His boss is Greg Bedard. Bedard calls Joe Milton a bad dude.
Bad guy.
Bad guy.
He's a bad guy.
And Giardi says, well, yeah, I think I've heard he's a little immature.
Yeah, or immature, depending on how you say it.
That feels like a drastically different report from the same publication, no?
It does. Now, it doesn't mean everybody that works at the same place views things the same way.
No, I think we've learned that here at WEEI. That's true.
I think that might be the case.
But just, that's a
But
big,
also-
is that not a big difference?
It's a big difference, but
Bad
also...
dude or immature?
But bad dude was backed up with what?
Nothing.
Oh,
I mean,
he doesn't
him
know
being
his
traded.
role, basically. No, but it went from, like, bad dude. That's a great headline. Like, holy smokes, it's a bad dude. That must be why he traded him. Why is he a bad dude? Well, he kind of thought he could play.
Right.
Like, okay, and?
Yeah, right.
Well, no, he thought maybe he could play football? Like, what are we talking about?
Right.
So I never really understood that he's the bad guy, bad teammate, any of that stuff. Didn't seem like that was the case. And you always have to raise an eyebrow when the first bad thing you heard about a player or coach or manager is the day they leave.
It's a little suspect.
It's a bit suspect. Yeah, like you left. Oh, well, now we can tell you the truth about this guy. Oh, yeah, you were protecting Joe Milton all year. You couldn't tell us a single bad thing about Joe Milton all year. And now he's a little immature. All right, so a young guy might be a little immature. So you got to get rid of him because of that.
Well, just which is it? Is he a little immature or is he a bad guy? That to me is a big difference.
Yeah,
and
it is.
So
And
interesting answer from Giardi on Friday. Yeah,
I would say so. I mean, and neither one on the surface to me wanting to play more or maybe being a little immature. Where you're like, it's one thing if you're immature and your coaches are like Gerard Mayo, who are not prepared for it at all and probably aren't the best to kind of coach you out of that. If you have somebody like Josh McDaniels, who's been in the league for 100 years, and Mike Vrabel has been in the league for 100 years, wouldn't those guys be able to take maybe an immature player and like get the most out of him?
one would think.
Guess not.
One would think. So, look, Milton to me ties in on this conversation about the Patriots, and if the pendulum has swung too far on let's bring in high character guys, let's bring in good guys over talented guys, right? And I think Milton is at the center of that. I think Will Campbell has come up in that discussion before where do you like Will? I like a lot of what I hear from Will Campbell. I'm very entertained by Will Campbell.
Everything he says is great.
Me too. But is that why you drafted him, or did you draft him because he can play? I mean, hopefully it's a combination, but you do start to wonder, has the pendulum gone a little too far? And then I get Mike Reese's Sunday Notes this weekend, and this just jumped out. It's his number one item about Kyle Williams, the receiver they drafted in the third round out of Wazoo. Reese says, it appeared wide receiver Kyle Williams had an important decision to make last December. He had one game remaining in his college career, but with Washington State in the midst of a coaching transition and more than 20 teammates immediately entering the transfer portal, the question was, would Williams play in the Holiday Bowl? To Williams, however, Reese writes that wasn't a decision to make. He was always playing. Such a mentality appealed to the Patriots, who selected Williams in the third round of the NFL draft, number 69 overall.
Nice.
And they project him as a speedy, versatile complement to other players on the roster, blah, blah, blah. Just for the record, he had a very good Holiday Bowl, 10 receptions, 172 yards, and a touchdown in a loss to Syracuse, again in the Holiday Bowl. But, okay, is that a nice thing to say after the fact when you draft him and another reason to defend the guy, or was that an actual factor in why they drafted him? Reese goes on to make the point. In the NIL world, you got to know who loves football and who doesn't. This is used as an example of a guy who loves football.
Yeah, it did seem like they drafted a ton of team captains and a ton of guys with stories kind of like that. That was one of the takeaways from the draft weekend. And I guess if you want to use that as a tiebreaker, that's fine. But
that's a good way to say it.
That shouldn't go overboard on some of the other stuff. Be like, well, this guy's a lot better. However, like this guy played in the Holiday Bowl. It's like, right. Like who's more talented?
And look, I think football character matters, and I think loving football and I think all that matters. But my question is, are the Patriots putting too much of a premium on that and overlooking other talented players?
Yeah, like there's definitely a fine line. Like it should be a part of the criteria that you look at for sure. But I remember going back to whatever the year the NBA draft was, that Anthony Edwards was the number one pick. There was a big story that came out that was like, he doesn't watch basketball in his free time. I don't think he loves basketball. Maybe he shouldn't be the first pick. And that there was like a lot of steam behind that. So, and that wasn't like a great draft or anything. But then when he went number 1, people were like, well, you got to question whether he loves the game or not.
Who was in that? That was LaMelo? What draft was that?
That's
that was
question.
Edwards. I think I was a LaMelo guy in that draft. Which
were you? I liked Edwards, but
I'd rather have Edwards in retrospect.
I don't think it was saying much, but I think I liked Edwards the most out of that draft. But he was the guy that went number 1. It was the 2020 draft. James Wiseman, LaMelo, Patrick Williams. Actually, Halliburton's draft too. He went 12. But that was the year the Celtics drafted Aaron Nesmith, who we'll see.
Maybe in the Eastern Conference Final.
Watching him right now.
Yeah, maybe
Cole Anthony's draft. But anyway, there was a big question mark about that because he didn't check all those boxes. He wouldn't have been the guy probably playing in the Holiday Bowl against Syracuse, right, with his NFL future on the line. So it's not always a slam dunk case.
But I mean, it's interesting. And again, maybe this is just after they drafted him, it's a justification for the pick.
Yeah,
and so that's fine. You're trying to justify your picks. I get that. But it is interesting to highlight that in the NIL world, in the transfer portal world, where guys are constantly transferring. I mean, the idea that Kyle Williams is going to stick it out somewhere. He did transfer earlier in his career from UNLV.
He himself did. Yeah.
So, but he transferred upwards and he went to a bigger school and he went to the Pac-12.
Too, right? It's going to be hard to really keep tabs on that.
I'm saying in that world, he was a part of that. I mean, he was right in the transfer portal with all of his teammates leaving earlier in his career. So all I would say is maybe that is an interesting tiebreaker. I would use it the same way you did, Keefe. We have Jalen Noel and Kyle Williams ranked very similarly. Noel, the receiver out of Iowa State who went to the Texans. We have them ranked very similarly on our boards. This guy, and I don't know if Noel played in his college bowl game.
I don't know.
But let's just say he didn't. And that's your tiebreaker. This guy loves football. This guy proved he wanted to stick it out. We like his football character. Well, great. I think that's a good tiebreaker. Are you bumping guys up the board?
I got news for you.
Otherwise, yes.
Jalen Noel did play in the Pop-Tarts Bowl.
Oh, boy.
And he had a monster game.
What'd he do?
How about 8 for 117 and a touchdown?
Ooh, well, Kyle Williams outperformed him there, Keefe.
All right, well.
10, 172 and a touchdown.
He played Miami, though. He didn't play Syracuse.
Did Noel win?
Yeah, they won big.
Okay, well.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. They won by a point. So it was clutch.
Okay, Williams did not win.
Okay, well.
Got smoked by Syracuse, which I don't think is a tremendous look.
Yeah, Kyle McCord was on the other side.
Good point.
Slinging it.
It's an NFL quarterback.
That's right.
So fair point. You could jump in on this. The Patriots and their approach to building character and culture within the locker room. Have they gone too far? Joe Milton in the middle of that. Will Campbell in the middle of that. And as it turns out, Kyle Williams, just because he decided to play in his bowl game. Apparently something in the words of Mike Reese that the Patriots put some stock into. 617-779-7937. You can jump in there. We'll hear from you. And speaking of hearing a little something, you hear that, Keith?
I hear it.
You know what that means?
I do.
Time for the keys to the Celtics and Knicks game 1 tonight. You got Keith's keys next.